Okay, my one faithful attendee, you are in for a treat. Okay, so we're gathered here to learn about uh, basically fixing credit and actually getting uh, the type of scores and profile needed to actually get access to capital. That's what we're trying to do in 2023. We're trying to get access to capital. All right. So one of the first things we need to do is clean up our credit. All right. So I'm just going to get right into this. When you're trying to clean up your credit, there's like three methods of disputes. I'm sure, throughout your browsing of the social medias and things of that nature that a lot of people have shared a lot of this information, but what we're going to do is we're going to go in deep, build a credit profile from scratch, let you know what there needs to be on there, and then we're going to talk about where to go to get the finances. So let's start off with the credit repair. Okay, so there's three methods of disputes. We got fact-based, legal violations. I put this in the pre-litigation category because when they have legal violations, then you can sue them for that. If you sue them for that, not only can you get $1,000 per violation, depending on what it is, whatever you're disputing will be removed as well. Okay, and then the third one is fraud. So that would include things that you didn't authorize being on your credit, identity theft, a rogue car dealership that used ran your credit a whole bunch of times that you didn't authorize, those sort of things. All right. Okay, so let's get into fact-based disputes. Fact-based disputes are disputes of actual inaccuracies. So let's say you go through your credit report, you see some things that are just plain inaccurate. They might have the wrong balance, wrong payment, wrong open date, wrong date of last activity. They might be reporting something late that wasn't late. You may have your wrong name on there, things of that nature. Those are actual inaccuracies that you can prove are inaccuracies. In the case of fact-based disputes, you say what the inaccuracy is, and if you can, you add the proof of that inaccuracy in the dispute. Done deal. Okay, so then there are disputes based on legal violations. These are pre-litigation, which, like I said, these are violations of your consumer rights, and there can be damages sought for those type of violations. So let me just read through this. Disputes based on legal violations are disputes where you're alleging that in some way in the reporting or in the interaction. So say you called them, they gave you bad information, or you called a creditor or a collection agency, or they called you and they gave you false information. They called you when they wasn't supposed to. They present themselves as if they were a lawyer or the government or some wild stuff trying to get you to pay something. Those are all violations that are based on an interaction. Okay, so the creditor or furnisher of credit data has violated some consumer law, like I just said. This type of dispute usually follows an initial attempt to have the credit bureau or creditor correct an inaccuracy you previously disputed. So we'll get into this, but say you asked them for some information, they didn't give it to you, or some piece of information they didn't give you that was required by law, either to verify or to validate a debt. If they didn't, that's a violation. Especially if they continue to report it or they continue to go after you in terms of collections. But this type of dispute can be a first attempt to accuse a credit bureau of a violation. So you may see a situation where you already think they violated you in some way. But by the mere fact that they're reporting such and such and such and such, you may say, okay, them reporting this is a violation. I'm just going to go right to it and say, hey, you violated me, correct it by removing this or removing that or changing this or updating this, or I'm going to sue you. Okay, so in these situations of disputes, based on legal violations. An example of that would be violations of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This mostly applies to credit bureaus, the major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. If they violate you in some way, that means they violated the Fair Credit Reporting Act or the Privacy Act or HIPAA. It's a lot of different ways that laws on the books that they could have violated you, your consumer rights or your privacy rights or things of that nature. And then specifically for creditors and collection agencies on your credit report, they have to follow what's called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So there's a whole book of laws that they have to adhere to when they're coming after you for collections or reporting anything to your credit report. Okay. So then you have disputes based on fraud or suspected fraud. So in this case, you might see some inquiries that you don't think or don't remember authorizing. So you say, okay, this looks like identity theft, or even accounts that might have been opened up by fraud or things of that nature. Who just joined? Okay. Well, it's being recorded, so if you missed anything, you could just I'll send it out and you can get a hold to it and catch up. But we're on disputes based on fraud or suspected fraud. You with me? All right, I'll keep it pushing. Okay. So so in this case, you usually file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC for short. In this complaint, you list items on your credit report that you think are based on fraud or identity theft or something of that nature. You also maybe inquiries, accounts, names, addresses, anything on your report that looks that's not correct, and you want to get off of there. What you have to do, what you should do, is create a record of disputing it by filing it with the FTC. So you can go online, go to, I think it's identitytheft.org or .gov, and then fill out that complaint. So examples of that, like I said, is excessive car dealership inquiry. Say you went to the car dealership, you say, hey, run my credit, trying to get a car. Maybe the first, I've seen sometimes people have 20 inquiries. They didn't get approved for the first one, so they just keep running it till you finally find a bank that's going to finance you. But by that time, you have 18, 20 inquiries and your score is tanked. It might take 50 points off. So you need to get those off. But you have to base that on a fraud because you did not authorize them to run your credit 20 times. And then, like I said, another example is any account you don't remember authorizing. Just anything you see on there, you don't remember it. Even if you just slightly remember it, I want it off of there. I'm going to put it on this FTC identity theft report, file it, and then let them work it out. Okay. So before you so now we know what kinds of disputes. We should talk about what I call credit disputing pregame. Okay. So these are things that you do before sending out any type of dispute letters. Okay. The number one, some people say you don't have to do this. It's kind of old school. I still like to do it because what I like to do is cross all my T's, dot all my I's, and come after these people if I don't get the results that I want. So I'm thinking like, okay, where'd you get your information? Oh, I blocked them. Why are they giving you information? So then I can bring them into court. I can write them letters. I can get something done. I can bring it before the state attorney general and write I could bring a whole bunch of people to the floor to write complaints about. So you just want to get it in writing that you don't want them disseminating your information. I just think it's the best thing to do. Okay, so the second thing is to remove all old or inaccurate addresses. Only leave your most current. Okay, so one of the ways you do that, like I said, is to file that FTC identity theft report, right? So, sometimes an identity thief can use your name, but they don't spell it right. So then it's listed somewhere in your report as some misspelled name. That's not you. You want that name off of there, or they're doing it from an address that you never lived at. So you want that address off. So you list all the things on there that'll fit, right? I think it's like 5 accounts you can put on there, uh, 3 addresses, 3 inquiries. If you need to, you might need to file multiple to get them all, because you want all these things on record as fraudulent, never yours, and you want them off of your report. So after you file that, what you could do then is, to expedite the situation, is follow up with calls to the major bureaus, and then have that identity theft report in front of you, because it'll have a file number, a report number. You give them that, let them know that you filed that report, and they'll either look it up or whatever, but they'll either take remove the disputed items on that report immediately, or they'll give you a direct way to file a dispute with that report, and then they'll come off. It's usually through the mail, but it's pretty quick. So you mail it, take 3 days to get there, take another 2-3 days to process. Within 14 days or 10 business days, that those things that you disputed will be off of there. And in this case, we're looking at addresses, names, and things of that nature. And then if you check and those things aren't off, then you just write them a letter. You do this, do the same thing, write them a letter, add the the FTC identity theft report to that letter, let them know that all these are fraudulent, and go from there. So another pregame is sending validation of debt letters directly to creditors and collection agencies, right? So this is before you start dealing with the credit bureaus in terms of disputing. You want to get on record whether a creditor or a collection agency has validated the debt. So you ask them for proof of this, proof of your original signature on the contract, proof of all the bills, statements, and all the interest fees. All of that needs to be in writing. And I will say this: creditors usually send stuff, but sometimes they don't send everything they're supposed to send. And if they don't send everything they're supposed to send, like the original application for credit, then that's a violation. So then we go back to being able to send a dispute letter based on a violation of consumer law. Okay, so this is why you do this pregame, because you want to get everything on a record. All this stuff is bogus, needs to be off my credit. I'm going through the proper channels. I did what I was supposed to do. Now you guys handle it. So you do all that pregame first. Get all of that out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to leverage all 3 methods for max results. Now, I've been doing this for 17 plus years. And, if you do it the way I'm telling you, you will get the results usually within 3 rounds, a little over 90 days. And sometimes you might have to send one more letter for a 4th round. But usually within the first 3 rounds, you'll get this taken care of. So let's start off. So you have a sequence of dispute activities after pregame. So we just went over pregame, all of those activities that you do. Once that's done, then you start your round 1 of disputes. So, okay, in round 1, you're going to send a fact-based dispute to the credit bureaus. So a fact-based dispute, just like we said, is just stuff that's regularly inaccurate or missing information. So if it's not accurate and complete, this is in the Fair Credit Reporting Act. If it's not accurate and complete, then it has to be either updated or removed. And if they can't update it, they have to remove it. And this is why we do our pregame, because if we taking away addresses, names, telephone numbers, old stuff, they can't validate it or verify it because the information won't be there for them to match it up. So you see how all this cascades and works on top of each other if you do when you do it in order. So in this another thing that you want to do in this fact-based dispute is you want to add method of verification request verbiage. So that means you want to, in this letter, you're telling them what's wrong, and then you want to ask them in the letter for the method of verification. Like how did you verify the information that you're verifying? How did you do it? What method? And they have to have that, and they have to send you that in writing. And that's a setup so that if they don't give you that, which a lot of times they don't, then you can hit them with a violation under the not the federal, but the Fair Credit Reporting Act. That will be if they don't send you that method of verification upon request, then that means it's a violation. And then you can get them to acquiesce to your dispute or get removed what they were supposed to remove from the beginning because they violated your consumer rights. So in the pregame, we sent a validation of debt letter to creditors and collection agencies. So in our round one, we're going to follow that up. If they didn't send you completely what you asked for, which is a requirement of the law, or they didn't send you anything within a 30-day period, then what you're going to do is you're going to send them violation letters. These are, in the business, we call it notice of default, intent to sue letters. You didn't send me what I asked for. You didn't validate the debt within a 30-day period, which is per the law. So now you're in default. You're letting them know, and then you're letting them know what laws they pretty much they violated, and that you're gonna sue them. You also put in there you can avoid all this lawsuit because I got you dead to rights, but you can avoid this if you just remove the item I'm disputing. You will be what they call held harmless, which means I won't sue you if you just remove it. Now I got you now. You didn't violate me. I won't take you to court if you just take this off my credit. And that works a lot of times. That's round one. Okay, so in round two, we send, because we've sent letters to the bureaus in the first round, if they didn't come back with what we requested, then we're going to send them notice of default, intent to sue letters. And we also give them an opportunity to cure. Like, okay, you've already violated me. This is to the credit bureaus now. You violated me because you didn't send me the information that I requested. Therefore, I got you dead to rights. You owe me damages. But we can avoid all this if you just remove the items that I'm disputing. You have not proven that they're verified. You didn't show me how you verified it. They need to be removed immediately. So in these letters, you're going to include the copies of your FTC identity theft report, a copy of your previous dispute to them, this notice of default letter, and a notice of default letter to the collection or creditor. So this bundles all of the information up of all your proof. You're also going to put the things that they violated in writing. You're going to include the damages. It's $1,000 per violation. You're going to let them know that. And then you're also going to let them know everything that I've just sent you in this letter, I'm also sending to the government, i.e. the Federal Trade Commission, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, I'm sure you've heard of those guys, and my state attorney general. Everybody's going to find out that you're not doing what you're supposed to do under the law. And so then, sometimes, that works to get them to do what they need to do. If they don't, then we have to go to round three. And then you have to follow through with what you told them. It's not a threat when you follow through. So you're following through. You're going to file the complaint with the FTC. You're going to file a complaint with the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They're pretty good at getting these guys to obey the law and remove things that need to be removed. You're going to file a complaint with your state attorney general, right? And just see, a lot of times you don't get a lot of feedback from the attorney general, but you want it on the record, so that if you do go to court, you can bring that up. Also, you can file a complaint with Health and Human Services on the federal level if you had negative medical accounts. If any kind of medical account was a part of any of your disputes or negative thing on your credit, then I would definitely file a complaint with Health and Human Services too. Now, I will say, once you do round 3, you follow this master plan, you will get results. I'm exaggerating 99.99, but you get the point. You will most likely have all the negatives removed. You might have a straggler, and then at that point, you have to probably send another letter to the CFPB. I would just stick to the CFPB, or there are what you would call consumer law attorneys that you can go to, who will take the case and take these people to court. And they don't charge anything. They take it out of whatever winning, damages you win. But the key to that is, the money is fine. You might get some, but the main thing is that during the case, they'll have to remove everything that you disputed, because you'll have them dead to rights with multiple violations and things of that nature. Now, this is where I get to one of the better things about the way we do it, the way I've been doing it, the way I set it up is to kill multiple birds with one stone. Not only do you get your credit cleaned up, but if you do this the right way, like I said, with the validation of debt letters, the notice of defaults and things of that nature, you have a paper trail that even if these people turn around and try to take you to court for the debt, most likely they won't win, because you have a paper trail saying they never validated debt, so they don't have a claim. They have no reason to be in court because they haven't validated debt. And I asked them for it. So you can start to avoid, no more garnishments, because they won't have a claim at this point. So the way we do it, it kills a lot of stones. That's why I call, it the pre-litigation. So you set it up for the possibility of litigation. And if you do it exactly in that sequence and cross all your T's and dot all your I's, you'll have a paper trail ready for court to get a default judgment against them. Get them on out of there. All right, so now that we got through the credit repair part, we want to start talking about how to build a credit profile that gets funded, okay? I'll call this basic credit literacy 101. You want to know how your FICO score is calculated. So if you look over here, the biggest thing with credit, of course, is payment history. That's 35%. The next biggest thing is amount owed. Now, the amount owed has 2 parts. It has to do with utilization and debt to income ratio. The debt to income ratio is kind of arbitrary because they really don't know how much you make. It's ways to finagle that, but that's graduate level credit, and we could get to that in subsequent Sunday Zoom calls. But today, we're going to talk about, through the credit repair process, we fix the biggest thing, which is to clean out our payment history so that it's 100% everything paid on time, everything's good. With the amounts owed, what you want to start doing is paying those. If you have any credit cards, you want to keep the utilization low, under 10%. One of the ways, a real quick tip I can give you about that is, sounds crazy, but only spend what you have. So if you have whatever your budget is for the month, or whatever your bills are, including the miscellaneous, use your credit cards to pay for everything during the month. And then with your paychecks or however you earn money, pay your credit cards down before the end of the month. To be more specific, before the statement date. Then every month, your credit card will be at zero balance. So you only spend on your credit card what your bills are, and then you take the money that you earn that you had to spend on bills anyway and pay it off. And therefore, every month your credit utilization will be at zero. Now, the rest of this is about these three on the side, 25% that you can have the most effect on going forward as you build a credit profile. So let's talk about that. Okay. So we talked about, so I think we talked about this. You know, the second biggest factor is amounts owed, that's utilization, debt to income ratio. I think your utilization should be held under 10%. Okay. Now, the next three aspects of your credit score and profile are length of history, which is the average age of your accounts. That's 15%. That's kind of major. Credit mix, which means, you know, having different types of credit. So credit cards, car loan, home loan, personal loans, things, lines of credit, things of that nature. Just having multiple different types of credit on your credit report. And then new credit, you know, how much new credit are you adding? Are you adding to your credit profile? And a key here is if you can add credit without inquiries, which kind of negatively affect you, that's the best way to do it. So if you can get credit with soft pulls that don't do hard pull credit inquiries, or if you can get multiple cards with one credit pool, you're going to maximize your new credit without taking the hit of multiple inquiries. Little tip there. Okay, so the first thing that we can have a positive effect on when we're building our profile, our profile's length of credit history, average age, is to add accounts that give you instant age. Now, it's not many ways that you can get instant age. So for number one, you don't want to remove old accounts, obviously, but one of the major long-term accounts that a lot of us have is student loans. You know, so a lot of times, you know, especially if you're over 35, you probably had student loans for 7, 8, 9 years or longer. Those count for age. So you keep those, preferably in deferment, forbearance, or some kind of forgiveness would be great. But at the same time, you want to keep those older accounts reporting. So the other thing you can do is you can add authorized user accounts. These authorized user accounts is basically piggybacking on someone else's long-term credit. You want them to be long-term. You don't want the utilization too high, things of that nature. Those will add age. Another thing you can do, and this what we recommend for people, is to get, you know, you can report your rent history. Up to 2 years of rent history will give you instant age, up to 24 months. You sign up with this company called Rent Reporters. I put the link in there, so when you get this, you'll be able to click that link and use that if you want to. Okay, so building, another thing we could do to build a profile that is fundable, that'll get you funded, is that you can add some new credit. Okay, so I got a couple of examples here. For personal loans, you can add, it's a company called Credit Strong. They have a credit builder account. We highly recommend that. They report to all 3 credit bureaus. But the key to this thing is you can cancel at any time and you'll get all of the money that you paid into it back. So it's not really a loan. It's a forced savings plan that reports to the credit bureaus. It don't really get much better than that. And then at the end of it, when you don't need it anymore or whatever, you get whatever you put in, you get back. It's like a savings. And we personally, we have a done for you credit repair service, and we have a payment plan. So we've linked up with a company, a payment portal called Benefits, and they will actually put you on a payment plan for our service. We have a credit repair service. It's a payment plan, and with Benefits, you sign up for our credit payment plan. It reports to all three bureaus, so you can add credit just by fixing your credit. I don't know if anybody else has that. I don't think so. So, we different. We different like that. All right. So you can also add new cards, new credit cards. So there's a company, again, it's the same company, Credit Strong. They also have a revolving account uh that they offer. It also reports to all three bureaus. And it acts as a revolving account because you need revolving accounts. And revolving accounts is just like credit cards, lines of credits, things of that nature. Um, and it also acts like a savings plan. You put the money in, it reports it, and you can get the money back out. So I have three other examples. Merrick is a good one. You can put as much, it's a secured card. You can put as much on that secured card as you want to, up to 3,000, I think. And then after 7 months, you can graduate to an unsecured. You get that capital back, that money back that you put in. Just make sure you pay on time and do the things you're supposed to be doing with your credit. And after 7 months, it'll move from secured to unsecured, and you'll get your deposit back. There's another company called Open Sky. This is pretty popular. The key with Open Sky is it's no credit check. So you don't get an inquiry for it, and they pretty much let most people in because they don't check credit. It's not a credit-based situation. You put the money up, and they will offer the card. So I think the minimum for anyone, all three of these, is $200. Minimum $200. That becomes your credit limit. But it reports to the credit bureau, and therefore it helps with your scores, helps with your mix, helps with new credit, builds your scores up. The last one there is Navy Federal. They have an N reward secured card. I recommend that, but of course everyone knows you have to be a member with Navy Federal. If you're not already a member and you don't know anybody who was in the military or in the military yourself, hit me up. I can be able to get you in because I'm a member, and I can sponsor you to get in. And of course, you can add primary accounts like car loans, home loans, things of that nature. All of that is new credit mixing. You pay these on time, you do what you're supposed to do. This will definitely boost your score up so you can get into the point where you get funded. But definitely 1 and 2. I have the links there. Use those links and get those accounts. You'll end up with 4 or 5 accounts, and you'll have a good mix, and your scores will shoot up. And once you do your credit report, your scores will be in the 700s. Okay. So, this is when we put it all together. After we've done our credit report, everything's clean, and we're building. This is the credit profile that you need to have to get funded. No late payments, no charge-offs, no collections, no bankruptcies. Basically perfect payment history, and that was taken care of with the credit repair part. You want less than 2 inquiries on any one of the bureaus over the last year. If you can't, you'll also be able to get rid of those inquiries through the credit repair process as well. And if you can't get rid of all of them, because sometimes they may be attached to open accounts, then you just want to minimize those. It won't definitely lock you out, but you don't want more than 2 on any given bureau. Okay, you got to have 1 to 2 credit cards with the $2,500 limit. It can be less. You're just gonna not get those high limit business credit cards that you want. But like I tell people sometimes, if say you're getting a $5,000 tax refund, I would take 2,500, 2,700, maybe 3,000, and get a secured card with that. You still have access to the money. It's helping you build your credit, and you need it. And so that's what I would do. If you don't already have a credit card with $2,500 on it, definitely take some lump sum of money that you get from whatever source, whether it be tax refund or anywhere, and try to get you a credit card with $2,500 as a limit. Or you can ask for, once your score gets better, you can ask for increases of the credit cards you already have. Say you have a Capital One card right now, it's got $1,000 limit. Your score hovering around 600. Say it goes to 720, ask for an increase. They might get you up to 2,500 because you're going to need that to get those high limit business credit cards that you want. And then you need at least one other card, that has some history. If you don't have that, maybe you had a card for 6 months. There are programs that it's going to make it more difficult to get it. But there are, you're talking to the right guy. I have programs that can kind of maneuver around those things. Score could be more important than profile. So we could talk about that. But this is the bare minimum. You need at least one installment loan, like I said, for that mix. And that's going to give you the higher scores anyway. So you need minimum 680. But if you have this, you went through the credit repair process, you're more likely going to be in the 700s, which is going to get you qualified for a lot of things. All right. You got the credit together. You ready to go? You 680, you 720, you ready to go? And let's talk about this money. Where do we go to get the money? Let's get right to it. All right. So when funding is a strategy. You don't just go out willy-nilly applying for everything. You got to know exactly where you're going, exactly what they're going to ask for. You got to have some type of strategy about how you're doing it. So the best type of credit, of course, is unsecured business credit. Why? Because it's higher limits. It doesn't report to your personal credit report. So therefore, it will not affect your utilization or debt to income ratios. And that's important when you're trying to do multiple rounds of funding, trying to get to those higher amounts, 100,000, 150,000 and more. You're going to need to do that over multiple rounds. But if you're using your cards and they're on your personal credit, your score is going to take a hit. So therefore, business credit doesn't report to your personal, and therefore you can go back for multiple rounds of funding so you can get access to the capital you want. Okay. So for business, of course, we haven't talked about this, but you need a business entity, but we're going to keep it simple. And when you're first starting off, you don't need to have business credit. You just need to have a business entity because at this point, you're doing personal guarantee financing, which means they're looking at your credit. That's why we just took this whole 40 minutes and building it up, doing credit repair and then building it because they're going to be looking at your credit. But you will need a business entity. So the quickest way to go about that is just go to your Secretary of State, pick out a name,